Welcome to another episode of Mayo Movie Club, where every few months I dive into my nostalgia bucket and dust off some classics. Okay, not all the time. I've recommended some recent movies too, but this episode I gotta start with some movies of my childhood that I think still hold up really well, and just show off some classic filmmaking. First up is a movie I recently saw again after having not seen it for maybe 20 years, Forever Young, starring our favorite lunatic actor Mel Gibson. I saw this on TV all the time as a kid, and after seeing it again, I've decided it's a classic. Danny, a war pilot in 1939, enters a secret government cryogenics program after seeing his lifelong girlfriend hit by a car and put into a coma, not looking like she'll survive. Having nothing to live for, he volunteers for the program to be frozen for 1 year. But for reasons yet to be discovered, the program is forgotten about and buried, and he remains frozen. 53 years later, a couple of kids are playing around in a military warehouse that's being emptied, and they accidentally open the cryo bed. After an initial scare, the kids take care of Danny, letting him stay in their treehouse, helping him adjust to the new world he's in. Will he find love again? Is anyone he knew still alive? Can he find out what happened to the program? Is anyone looking for him? It's a fun adventure. He gets to know the kids better, the single mother in the house, and just when things might be okay, we find out there's some horrible things happening to his body due to being frozen for so long. Forever Young is moving, sweet, funny, exciting. It's everything you could want. It's a really good example of they don't make them like they used to. And the opening plane landing scene is pretty impressive for a movie that's not a big Hollywood blockbuster and being made before the advent of CGI. Yes, I know CGI existed before this, but I'm not talking Tron level of CGI, I'm talking Independence Day. Watching Forever Young made me think of two other movies that would be great recommendations for this series, so let's talk about both of them. The premise of Forever Young might sound familiar to some of you. That's because it shares a lot with the premise of Idiocracy. A man is frozen in a secret government project and set to wake up in a year. The project is forgotten about and he wakes up much later. Same basic premise, but instead of waking up 50 years later, it's 500 years. And he wakes up in a society that has become incredibly dumb. Nothing works and no one can solve any problems. It's probably one of the funniest movies I've ever seen. Although the more I watch it, the scarier it gets as we see our current world falling apart all around us. But Idiocracy really does get funnier as the time goes by. Luke Wilson is pretty good as the lead, but the real star is Dax Shepard, who plays a character so dumb it's adorable. And he's a lawyer too. His name is Frito Pendejo, and I gotta tell you something, a couple years ago I saw The Judge from 2014, the drama with Robert Downey Jr. and Robert Duvall. Not a bad movie. And there's a part where Dax Shepard plays a lawyer, and I laughed so hard every time I saw him. How do you cast Dax Shepard as a lawyer after his role in Idiocracy? Too funny, man. Idiocracy's other standout performance is from SNL's Maya Rudolph, who is really funny and damn, just look at her. She plays a hooker that signed up for the cryo program just for the money, and she's just as lost in this new future as our main character. Together, they're looking for a way back home after hearing about a time machine, and they cross paths with the highest levels of government who think these strange people of the past can help with their current problems. Serious problems like why do our crops not grow even though we're watering them with a sports drink. I could watch Idiocracy every week and never get sick of it. Truly one of the best comedies of our time. The other movie that Forever Young made me think of was Memphis Belle. Not related in premise, but the early 20th century war pilot stuff made me think of it a lot. It came out a couple years before Forever Young, and it's another one of those movies that was just always on the movie channels growing up. It's one of my mom's favorite movies, so we watched it a lot. I'm a fan of the actors involved. You've got a young Matthew Modine, Sean Astin, Eric Stoltz, Billy Zane, and one of my favorites, Harry Connick Jr. I wish he were in more movies, and he's got the voice of an angel. If you put Harry Connick Jr. in your movie and you don't let him sing, that should be a crime. Memphis Belle tells the story of a group of bomber planes sent into a very dangerous mission to take out important targets in Germany during World War II. They face heavy anti-air fire and many of the planes won't make it back. We follow the crew of the Memphis Belle, who is flying their final mission, and what a mission to be their last. We get to know everyone on board, the gunners, the pilots, the bombardiers. Everyone's trying to keep their cool as they prepare to go out into a horrible fight. It's an exciting and at times dark journey through these men's experience, and there's really no other movie like it that I've seen. Some pretty good practical effects are present, but it's not really an action movie. The heart of this film is the drama that occurs between and inside our characters as they deal with the intense fear the mission presents. I said it can get dark at times, but I wouldn't call it a depressing or sad film. It's serious, but it's also inspiring. You'll feel good when it's all over, and it's a great one to put on during a date night for a repeat viewing. Let's take a hard right turn and talk sci-fi. I mentioned it in my RoboCop analysis and in my last movie club video. If you haven't seen it by now, it's time to watch Total Recall. Is this Schwarzenegger's best movie? It's pretty close. I think Predator is his best, and many would say Terminator 1 or 2, but there's a strong case for Total Recall. I mean, his acting isn't the best, he's more solid and believable in Predator, but the ridiculous nature of Arnold being so massive but being passed off as a normal guy is part of the charm. Total Recall is about Douglas Quaid, a man who has recurring dreams of being on Mars. And this is a world where traveling to Mars is not only possible, it's common. There's a giant city on Mars at this point. Douglas goes to a place called Total Recall that offers memory implants, so you can have a vacation without even taking one. You get the memories of a nice vacation. Douglas opts for the special promotion that lets him remember himself as something cooler than he is. He's just a construction worker, so he picks the profile of a secret agent. But something goes terribly wrong in the installment process, and Douglas suddenly remembers that he actually is a secret agent, and his memory had been overwritten. This process overrides his new memories, and now he actually has to go to Mars to uncover a giant conspiracy. Is it real? Is it in his head? That's the big question you'll have when it's over, and I'm not going to weigh in with my own opinion. It doesn't really matter though, because it's exciting either way. I'm glad they don't confirm anything, because if it is imaginary, I think confirming it would take some of the fun away from it. Not knowing is part of why it works so well. Total Recall is filled with over-the-top violence, satire, and social commentary. Funny one-liners, awesome practical effects, and so much more. Paul Verhoeven directed this after he did RoboCop, and he brought along his cinematographer Joss Ficano and legendary effects artist Rob Bottin, so this movie really sits up there with RoboCop. In my RoboCop video, I claimed that Total Recall is the last of the great 80s action movies, and I stand by that. 80s action movies were full of excess and exaggeration, and Total Recall, coming out in 1990, takes things to their limit without turning into parody. It takes itself seriously enough just to be convincing, but it's self-aware enough to let you know that we're just having a good time here. My favorite line has to be when one of the villain's henchmen hints at the impossibility of his wife not enjoying sleeping with Arnold Schwarzenegger while undercover.
You're dead. I don't blame you, man. I wouldn't want a guy like Quaid porking my old lady.
You saying she likes it?
No, I'm sure she hated every minute of it.
Before I go, I want to recommend some horror, and lately a particular movie has been on my mind. Frozen. No, not Frozen. Frozen, starring Iceman. That's funny. I'm not going to say a lot about this one, and I'm recommending you don't watch any trailers or even read what it's about. All I'm going to say is 3 people get stuck on a ski lift late at night during a storm. That's all you need to know. The fun of Frozen is figuring out what kind of movie it's going to be as you're watching it, because it has multiple moments in the first act where it could go in many directions. Is it a slasher? Is it a ghost story? Is it a horror adventure? Who knows? It's not obvious from the start, and those are the kinds of horror movies I really like. Like Martyrs, there's no way to know where that movie's going after the first 15 minutes. So yeah, watch Frozen, it's good. That's it for this episode of Mayo Movie Club. Thank you again to all the loyal viewers who wait patiently for this series. You guys are the best. And of course, if you want to see these episodes before they come out, you can join my Patreon or become a member of my YouTube channel, and you'll get to see each episode about a week in advance. Thanks a lot, see you next time.